Hey y'all, today a very cool guest, once again, Emmy Award winner, actually for the first time, Max Lederman. Lederman, that's the correct way to say the name?
You could say it Lederman. I pronounce it Letterman, but a lot of people with my same last name say Lederman.
So Lederman, okay, Max Lederman covers the Boston Celtics for NBC Sports up there, and it used to be Comcast Sportsnet. That's where you can watch your team's local broadcasts. Unfortunately for me, I've lived in what's called the DMV. So for the last few years, all the stuff that I'm able to watch is Nationals. But you interestingly, you told me you're a Sixers fan.
That's right. I was born in Philadelphia. I grew up there. I went to Cheltenham High School in Wyncote, and my name is Reggie Jackson. And then moved up to Boston for college at Northeastern. Met my wife, legally binding contract, so I'm stuck here now. But I've been covering the Celtics for I think 8 or 9 years here.
So you did the piece about the 08 Celtics team. That was prior to you covering the team.
No, the 08 the documentary that I won an Emmy for was we did in 2018. So we were, I'd already been here. But yeah, I was working at a different station in Boston, the Red Sox station, when the Celtics won the championship, and didn't come to the Celtics station until after. But yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So I got to ask you, obviously you cover the Celtics, but how are people feeling in the area about Tom? I mean, has he come down at all? Obviously he's kind of like Nick Foles to Philadelphia. Like, he can't really do wrong, but are people kind of skeptical of all of the drama that's weirdly started now to concern Tom Brady, or how folks feeling?
Yeah, for sure. He's come down a little bit. I mean, Belichick has also come down a little bit. A lot of people are saying it was all Brady, that gets the credit for the championships. The rational people are like, look, it was a bit of both. But with the retirement thing, man, they led the local sportscast with Brady not mentioning Patriots fans when he first retired. Like, it was a story here. It was embarrassing a little bit, but I get it. But people were hurt about that. And then for him to come back and all that drama, he definitely he's come down a few rungs, but I think there's still a lot of Brady's being born still to this day. So
absolutely,
he's still GOAT up here.
Oh yeah. That's why I framed the question like that, because I don't want to make it sound like New England could ever, even if they wanted to, completely cut ties. But it is really weird the way the way that it's reported now is that he wanted to go to a division rival and not only quarterback the team but own the team as well. Is wow. Yeah. So do you agree with me that this year's Sixers lineup is the best chance since most Gen X folks, or is that kind of like prisoner of moment analysis?
I would say last year was probably pretty up there. They still had Ben, obviously, who was the reason, or one of the reasons, that they didn't end up winning it. But last year was a pretty good chance too. But yeah, this year, I mean, it's wide open. Who knows what the Nets will look like next year? You kind of got an opportunity here, but sure doesn't feel like this is the team is deep enough. And I'm still obviously a huge Sixers fan. I talked to all my friends and my brother, just we're kind of reserved to it being, it's about next year now, which is unfortunate because there's a huge decision on James Harden this summer. But it's definitely it's wide open this year. So if they can beat Toronto, and then you're playing Miami, there's definitely a chance you're in the conference finals. But the Toronto thing is a big deal.
Do you think that if they get bounced in the first round, how strong do you think the push will be to not even give Harden? Do you think Harden's locked into getting the deal, or
Man, it'd be tough not to bring him back, but maybe, they try to get him to just opt in, like say, you know, it really needs to be about Daryl. What Daryl's relationship with him is like, look, we just had a pretty epic failure here in the playoffs. The team wasn't perfect around you, so let's see if we can get it better next year, and then we'll sign you. If you don't spend all summer just eating and going to strip clubs and stuff, and because it's just one of those things where Harden really he needs to evolve into the next phase of his career, and in order to do that, he needs to probably change some of his habits off the court. But there's just no indication that that's what he'll do. Daryl will obviously have a better feel for that because he's got a good relationship with him. But that was your chance. That's why he held out on trading Ben, was to get another star. And Harden, I mean, that trade was amazing, at the time, and it looks bad now, or it looks questionable now. But at the time, nobody was saying that was a bad trade for Philly. So, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. And it could, look, if they lose, but he plays great, it obviously matters. But I'm just like, man, I'm uncomfortable just in general in life giving $250 million to any one human being. But when it comes to this, it's like, man, that's who you're stuck with. But you're kind of stuck with him anyway. So if they have to pay him, they will. I think they would like to just have him opt in, but you can't just let him leave, I don't think.
No, I mean, I think now you've plunged. It's like if you let him go. I ask that because you always got to go to the most extreme logical endpoint, because that's if things go badly, Philadelphia fans are going to want to do the most extreme thing, possible right away. It's at least some contingent of them. But I feel like logic has to win out there, and you just have to kind of ride it out now. You got to ride it out for the next few years of Harden. At least bring it back, like you said, a couple more years. Because then you lost Ben Simmons for nothing.
Right. Which, look, you got nothing from him anyway. So, and they were pretty good this year without him, but they weren't going to win a championship. So I'm not, losing the depth kind of mattered, but, hopefully that's something, you can find another shooter like Seth and a backup big, Drummond, they finally had a backup big for Embiid that wouldn't get just absolutely roasted in the 2 minutes that he needed to play in the playoffs. But here we are again.
I saw an insane stat on FS1. I think it was yesterday, and somebody was making a ridiculous argument, but there was an interesting little infographic they had, and the guy said that I think it was Kevin Wildes who brought it up. Either Kevin Wildes or Chris Broussard brought up the best 3-point percentage in the playoffs in NBA history with minimum always like a qualifier. It's got Seth Curry at 47% shooting from three in his playoff career. It's one of those, it's like anomalous stats because behind him is Steph and Ray Allen, and the volume isn't there. I think that Seth is a good shooter, but he's not that good.
No, and he wore down versus the Hawks in a couple of those games. You could tell he was getting tired, and I was a little critical of Doc leaving him in too long. I think it was Game 7, and you can hunt him. The Celtics are going to hunt him when he's out there. Him and Kyrie, they're going to go after those guys on defense. So that's the issue with him. He's not really anything but a shooter, but it'd be nice to have him.
Well, since talking about Kyrie on defense, I mean he was magnificent on offense the other night in that playing game, and they ended up in a close game. It was amazing the way that the Cavs were even able to. Do you think that that's a sign of things to come, or do you think that they're just learning to put it together as a team and really have that killer instinct?
I think it's probably a sign. They're great offensively with Durant and Kyrie, but they are so bad on defense. And they were going up against the Cavs, who aren't, they're not any of the, they're not the 04 Pistons when it comes to defense. No. The Celtics are the best defense in the NBA. So I think it'll be a lot harder for them. Kyrie made, a bunch of contested shots, which he'll make, because he's just a freak. He's so good at making those. But he's not going to make as many versus Marcus Smart as he's making against, like Darius Garland guarding him.
No.
So we'll see. It's a little scary because, any team with Durant and Kyrie, especially in the playoffs, they got a chance. But, the team as a whole, I just think, the Celtics are, a good deal better.
Yeah, I mean, I think if a game is close, then you naturally are probably going to, if you're prognosticating, lean towards the team with the guys who can go get their own shots. But the problem is, I think that some of these games might not end up being close. I think you can have a couple of guys pouring in from the Celtics and have only really KD and Kyrie really contributing. And I have not seen it yet, so I don't want to project it. If I was betting money on these playoffs, I haven't seen it yet. The Nets consistently buy into playing good defense.
Yeah, and I just don't think they can. I don't think they have the players to do it. And a little sneaky secret about the Celtics is that their offense has actually been better than their defense the last month of the season. They really started to click on that end, and that's huge. And Jaylen Brown has been great, and he's really he's just started doing new things at the end of the season that he has a little hard-end move where he goes between his legs a couple times and does a step back or drives to the basket, and that's just where did that even come from? And he's going to the basket in the first quarter and putting his body on opponents and just basically saying I'm going to score and you can try to defend me, but there's going to be a physical cost. So I mean that's something that the Nets are going to have to deal with as well. And he wears you down. And then you got obviously Tatum, who's incredible, and has scored 50 points versus the Nets in the playoffs last year. So he can do it. He's ready. They're both young guys have been, they've been to conference finals, so they're not afraid of a first round series. And Ime Udoka is just such a good coach. He's such a good leader. It seems like that, it should be the I picked the Celtics in 5 if I'm making a pick there at this point.
Wow,
I'm terrified.
Celtics in 5.
It should happen. I mean, it might not, but to me, it's just looking at the numbers. You take emotions out of it. It should happen that way. But obviously Durant and Kyrie are huge X factors. But again, there's both sides of the floor. Durant can be incredible on defense, but he's going to wear down. And Kyrie obviously he has nothing on the other end. So we'll see.
That's embarrassing. If it ends, I mean the reason. I'm not saying wow is I think you're wrong. In my mind, I'm more leaning towards 6 because I want to give them just one game, like you're saying, just one based on them having KD and Kyrie, just a Herculean effort, at least one of those. And I think maybe one of the other, if they go down 4, gentlemen sweep, I mean, that's a really impactful event for the top, whatever you want to talk, top 50, top 75 players. If KD and Kyrie have each other and their excuses, we didn't have Ben Simmons.
That's tough. It really is. Well, I don't really know what kind of coach Nash is. It's the team, man. It's the team around them. They've, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge don't even play anymore. They're signing some guy named Kessler is, an impactful player for them. And it's less about them really than it is just about how good the Celtics have been. Normally, Nets versus Celtics, you asked me 3 months ago, I'm like, oh my God, that's a nightmare scenario for the Celtics. But the way the Celtics are playing, they've been so good. It's really surprising. They were so good for so long that you just have to buy it. I had no choice. It's man, there's nothing that they've done that would show me that they shouldn't win in 5-6 games,
It's not fluky. They're peaking at the right time.
Right. And they believe, and it's apparent. We just did our preview show for the playoffs, and it just every word out of their mouths is it's not just cliches. It's you can tell that, and they've been saying it for months. They're just look, it's not about who's on the other end of the floor. It's about us. It's about what we do. We're not worried about opponent. We're not worried about, the level of competition, who we're playing, this or that. We're just trying to get better. And they crush teams, just like absolutely demolish like crap teams. And they like in years past, they would play down to opponents. And this year there's just none of that since the turn of the calendar to 2022. It's been like just like almost like mean bullying. Like why aren't you like taking your foot off the gas a little bit? But they're just crushing bad teams
That's
and
good
good teams alike.
basketball.
Right, it's been fun to watch, and it's really kind of like an interesting approach to like just getting rhythm. Like they had a nice stretch of like I think it was like 8 or 9 games versus really crappy teams leading into the trade deadline. And I remember making a joke like, "Oh, great, they're going to win all these games, and everyone's going to think they're buyers now, and they're going to, make some stupid trades." And it's honestly it's what happened. But they made a good trade in getting Derek White, getting Daniel Tyson, getting rid of bad players like Ennis Freedom, getting rid of Schroeder, Josh Richardson, who was playing well, but just slowing everything down and just getting everyone like just making it very clear like we're trying to win now. It's about the young wings and these guys fit with them, and we're going to use these games versus crappy teams to just build our confidence. Just this is what it feels like to dominate. And let's just keep doing that even when there's good teams. And they do. And it's weird and crazy and I don't get it, but it's been a fun season, and hopefully it doesn't end in the first round, right?
So how soon are they expected to get back Robert Williams?
So it was the original timetable of 4 weeks would put him right before game 5 of this first round series if all goes according to plan. But there's been some grumblings. Like they're like outrageously optimistic and open about it. Like Ime Udoka, just every word out of his mouth is like, yeah, we might even have Rob in the first round. And like when we were all just resigned to him being in the second round, I'm like, why are you putting this pressure on the kid? But apparently it's just because he looked great. They went in there, they opened up his knee to look at the meniscus, and I feel like it was just not nearly as bad as they were fearing. And
Wow.
Brian Scalabrine, our analyst, he had a meniscus injury when he was playing, and he was like, "Yeah, I was back in 2 weeks." It was like the healing of just the arthroscopic surgery is really what it is. It's because
Scalabrine's
the
got to be a
meniscus.
legend. I didn't know that he covered the game. Oh man, that's really cool. Sorry to cut you off there, but that's pretty cool.
No, he is. He absolutely is, and he's pretty humble and self-aware about. I went to get dinner with him one time a couple years ago, and like the cook we're getting food at like a deli, and the cook comes out and is like shaking, getting a picture with him. I'm like, oh, I'm the biggest fan. And we're walking back, and he's like, look, I know that's weird. That doesn't
Yeah.
like I was like the last guy off the bench, and these people love me, and I don't get it. He's like, I love it, I'm glad, but like it's weird that it's a thing. So at least he's self-aware about that. Yeah.
That's just the whole dynamic of his stardom for that team, and the way that team loved that guy during a really peak. Did that your 2018 documentary, was there anything that concerned him?
Well, he was interviewed for it. I think we used him a little bit, but it was mostly about obviously the big guys and
Of
the
course.
role players that played more, obviously. But a lot of Scal's interview was for the credits at the end, so that was pretty funny, I thought.
Well, yeah, I guess you had to be there. You had to be there. Absolutely. So you said that Rob might come back for Game 5. We're hearing that maybe Ben Simmons is back for Game 4. What are your thoughts on I just said Ben Simmons, so
That's
just go ahead
clutch.
and unload.
I mean, come on. So you're telling me that this guy who hasn't played still has not gone like sprinting with the Nets, like still hasn't run a full sprint because of a back injury, hasn't played basketball in like a year, is going to return in the middle of a playoff series and make an impact? And also, like, what about him, his character, everything that we know about him says that he'd be like totally fine coming in a playoff game, making his debut in like maybe a winner go home playoff game. And maybe he'd do it, but would he perform in that game? I don't know, like what kind of like, you know, like alternative medicine, shaman or something that he went to change the core of his being to be the
Yep.
kind of player that can succeed in that moment. Because to me, I am not moved one way or the other. Like some people are saying it would actually make the Nets worse, and maybe it would, but like it definitely won't make them better. I mean, he's a great defender, but like, hey, like you've been practicing a day or two, because if he's not practicing now, the playoffs start on Sunday. Like, when is he going to get into game shape? I don't know,
So
man. I
game
I
four
think
would
it's a bunch
be
of clutch. It's
game.
nonsense. He's not.
It'd be the 20th. It'd be like, you know, 7, 8 days from when we're taping this would be game four.
Yeah, I just can't imagine it. I really can't. And there's just nothing in his history that says that it's what he wants. That he would really be down for that. I think he wants it to be out there that he was close, that there was a chance, but just it just didn't work. Or maybe just tweak the back again a little bit. Like, come on, like there's serious people that have serious questions about whether he will actually play again, like ever. So, and I think he will, but like it's ridiculous. And you could just see him on the sidelines at the game, like at the playing game, wearing that lamb suit. Like that's what he wants. He wants to just be on the sideline, no pressure, doesn't have to play, but he can show off his cool fit and his hot fiance and his cool Lamborghini or whatever. He wants to live the lifestyle, but he doesn't want to put the work in. He never has. I had the curse of having to watch, wanting him to, improve and get better as a Sixers fan, and then watching Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown just come back and like be good at what they were bad at the year before. And just to see
Yep.
that kind of like, oh, this is something I struggle at. I'm going to attack it this offseason. And you never see anything about it on Instagram. You just see the results when they come back the next season. Whereas Ben, it's like, oh, cool, like edited Instagram workout video of you shooting threes. Do it in a game. And he never did. And there's look, people change. They can change. Until I see evidence of him changing, he is Ben Simmons, who we saw afraid to dunk over Trae Young in Game 7 of a playoff series last year. So, and he passed to Matisse, like who was like, are we sure he's the better option there, Ben? Anyway,
So mental health is a very serious thing. I take it very seriously. What I the reporting that I've read though is that he's saying that it wasn't that. It is that what was latest put out in this
yeah,
propaganda
he won't.
campaign to allow
I
him to
think
get
so.
paid.
So this is how I just reading the tea leaves and what I've grumblings, nothing official or even really sourced or anything, and it's the assumptions that I'm making. And I absolutely, if his mental health is an issue, absolutely take care of it. I'm very sensitive to that, and there shouldn't be a stigma about it. I think there's a lot of players
Yes,
that have courageously come out and really expressed it. What I
like
think
Kevin
happened with
Love.
him is that exactly Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan. There's been a bunch of guys that have really, I think done important work about it and
Absolutely.
being open about it. But what Ben did, or what it feels like what happened, is that he just wanted to out of Philly and use the mental health
Hmm.
as an excuse, but is too proud to say it's really a thing. Is like,
Hmm.
well, if you're gonna say it's mental health, then like let's deal with it. Let's talk
And
about
I
it. Let's
believe
go
him.
see people. What?
And if he's saying that, I believe him. The only thing that's making me not believe that
Absolutely.
it's stigma about being around the rough fans in Philly is because he told us that it's not that.
Right. If it's the mental health, then I believe you 100% if you're going to say that. But it's been expressed. It's what his agents are saying, but he won't say it. It's like he's too afraid to admit it. And I don't need him to like publicly say it, but clearly the Sixers weren't going to find him if he had mental health issues. They're finding him because he won't go see their doctors or report anything from an actual doctor about like it being a real thing. It seemed like it was a ploy to get the narrative switched to his side, and I hope that's not the case because I think that really does damage to people that actually have mental health issues. Because I remember hearing that was like the play that was going to happen if they didn't trade him before the season, and just being like, there's no way he would do that. And then he did it. I was like, oh, it better be real then. But I don't know. I don't know what to believe. And so when I say like he doesn't have like the mental like fortitude and stuff, I'm not talking about mental health. I'm talking about just like the desire to
Yes.
win, the desire
Yes.
to work
No
your game
question.
in the offseason.
You could see it when he was playing, and silly me, silly all of us. It's human nature to look at somebody's, uh, immense physical characteristics and say, oh, well, if they've already got not maybe just physical characteristics, but their traits and certain things about them that people prioritize, measurables, and say they got that, then you can fill in that killer. But when you watch them at LSU, it doesn't bother Ben to lose. It doesn't bother him when he doesn't improve. Honestly, he had some improvement from the rookie season. He sat out the first whole year, then got the rookie of the year, the way I remember it. And then that second year, there was some development, some improvement, but since then he's basically been the same player.
Yeah, and he was special. He was like Magic Johnson, Oscar Robertson, like putting up incredible numbers for a player in the first few years of his career. But like that's it. Like you look at Magic, you look at Oscar Robertson, you even look at like the LeBrons of the world. Like the numbers continued to grow, and like the weaknesses got less weak or not weaknesses at all. With him, it was like he was just happy to be where he was, and he did improve defensively for sure. But to me, that was like you don't even really practice that. That's just because you're naturally good, you're smart, and you played more. You played in games and learned NBA offenses better, and were just smarter at being a good defender. So, like to me, I'll give him credit for that. But it's not like he's working in the gym on his defense. Shoot free throws, man. I don't even need you to shoot threes. Just be good at free throws. Hire someone other than your brother as your shooting coach. As soon as I heard that it was his brother, I was like, oh, red flag. Red flag to
I'm
me. If you
so
want
glad to
someone that
not
you
have to
tell
defend
that,
this anymore.
what?
I'm so glad to not have to defend this
Oh, I
anymore.
know. It's just like get him away. And that's what people don't understand outside of Philly is that we loved him. That's why we hate him. Or it's not hate, but it's why it was such a bad divorce, because like it went from love and desire and want to be. We want not like I remember talking to my. This is hilarious. Talking to my buddies, several years ago, like think about what like a great era of Philly sports we're in. We got Embiid, Carson Wentz, and Ben Simmons might go down as like three of the top five greatest Philly athletes ever. Like that's where we were. What we wanted, and Embiid's the only one that's living up to that. And Ben, I don't know. It's like there was so much support for him, and yeah, I mean you're gonna get booed if you're bad, but like people like there's that great clip of the guy like when he's trying to shoot the free throw, grabbing his arm and just pull it in. Come on, let's go, Ben. Like
Yes, yes. I
that
love that
was what
video.
Philly wanted. We wanted him to shoot well. We wanted him to not be afraid to fail. Like miss, dude, miss, but take the shot. So
Because that's who Philly is. That's why the team so much gravitated towards a Nick Foles during that whole run, is because you know we're all scrappy. We all kind of there's some kind of quote defect or problem, but somehow failing and getting through it and being okay to dust yourself off and keep going. And the fear of failure, the fear of looking silly at all for once, 1 second, 1 day, 1 minute, the not being willing. It's not that he was tossing up the bricks during the game. It's that he wouldn't shoot. That's the problem.
yeah,
uh,
it was bad fit. Bad fit really anywhere. I mean, it's not going to be. That's why I just don't think he's coming back this series. And maybe he does. Maybe he proves me wrong. But I just, because if he were at 100%, he would absolutely make a difference defending Jason Tatum. He can give him problems for sure, but I just don't believe that a guy who hasn't played in a year, who's got a back issue, is going to come in and be an impact player in a playoff series. I just don't believe it.
So somebody who might not be back, Russell Westbrook. I guess I put the cart before the horse here, but if you were Jeannie Buss, as the roster is currently constructed, it's just sitting there, laying there, you can go forward with the same squad and, hope that that you don't have as much injury, or you go drastic. Where are you going to make drastic changes, or what are your thoughts on what the Lakers need to do?
Well, they need to fire Rob Pelinka. He's terrible. The Anthony Davis trade was fine. Good job. Good job on the Lakers for sucking for all those years and being just absolutely terribly managed to get all those young players that you can trade for Anthony Davis. But, and you won your little Mickey Mouse championship. One, I'd consider selling the team if I were Jeannie Buss because they probably need a better owner. But two, I would fire Rob Pelinka. Don't get a Laker. Like, get somebody that's just a good general manager. They always have to go in-house, and that's why they have these bad decision makers. Like, Kupchak was good.
Because everybody's still working for the same thing. It's still the same construct. You're always going to put the pipeline right back into the main vein.
It's a disaster. They had a great, potential deal, or a good one at least, to get, Buddy Hield. And then LeBron here is like, no, do that for Westbrook. And like, trade half your roster, all your depth, and then make it so that you can't sign DeRozan, re-sign Caruso. I mean, it's just again, I love LeBron. I think he's a great player. But players are terrible, player judges. They are not good at judging, because they see them at their best moments when they're playing against them in these games, but they don't think about the fit and all that kind of stuff. And the idea, nobody thought that was a good trade. Nobody. Not a single human.
I'm big into player empowerment. I believe that they should. I think the hands of justice in a lot of different ways have been bent in the wrong direction, and you're seeing some corrections and overcorrections. But the idea that LeBron comes to you and says that as a roster construction, I want Russell, somebody who is unique to how LeBron has ever played, as opposed to a Buddy Hield or DeMar DeRozan. As a team GM, you have to just sit down with LeBron I love you, man. We're going to try to get you what you need. That's not it. We cannot do that, sir. That's what they told Michael Jordan. They told Michael Jordan.
I mean, just lie to your player and be like, yeah, listen, LeBron, we called and we just couldn't do it. And sure, he might find out, but at the end of the day, yeah, sorry, I just wasn't going to make that trade. And they have no courage. They're not going to. I wouldn't say that to LeBron's face, but at the end of the day, I mean, maybe Rob Pelinka was just like, look, we already won the championship. Why not give it a shot? But to me, it was just it was so fluky that they won that year. Anthony Davis, shooting great in the bubble and then never being a good shooter in any other season means all right, he's probably not great at shooting threes, and he's been brittle. He had a little run of durability there his last year in New Orleans, I believe, and then his first year with the Lakers, but for the rest of his career, I mean, he's just not. There's not a lot of options either. I saw the Gordon Hayward thing being floated out there, Gordon Hayward for Russell Westbrook. But to me, it's why would Charlotte do that to get out of the last year? Hayward maybe, but you got a young team there that's impressionable. I don't know if I'd want to bring Russell Westbrook there for fifth team in 5 years or something. So it's
a playoff team. I could see if you were out. It's got to be somebody who was out that gets Russell. We got to sell tickets. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, like the Kings or someone. But even the Kings at this point, I don't think would do that because he would be a terrible fit. I mean, he would be a bad fit pretty much anywhere. I love Allen Iverson's my favorite basketball player ever, but he really does remind me of Iverson at the end, where it was just his refusal to change the way he played shortened his career. Yeah. He could have taken a back seat. He could have been. My dream always was he's going to be, he's going to move from the 2 to the 1, and he's going to be, usher in the next era by just playing great point guard and using his speed, that he's still got left. But no, he just wanted to be Allen Iverson still, and Westbrook just is still in denial about his skills. That were kind of overrated in general. He was never terribly efficient, and he was always kind of just needed to be the guy. But unless you're the guy with like Steph Curry at every position around you, uh, when you can't shoot, that's not great. So I think he'll either get bought out or it'll be like a John Wall trade. It'll be another just like awful contract coming back. But I mean, the Gordon Hayward one would actually be great for the Lakers. The problem with him is he's just always hurt.
Yeah, but it just fits. You just never do that trade. That's just one of the just really bad moves over the last few years. I also think that the Anthony Davis, it has undoubtedly paid off. So you can't, if you get a ring, okay, fine. But I think Anthony Davis is a very good player, but I think he is probably, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to be hot takey, but I think he's literally probably the most overrated basketball player in NBA history. Like that's saying a lot, but he gets elevated over guys that I'm really not sure that he's better than. Like people talk about him as a top 10 player in the league right now. I'm just not sure about that.
Maybe if he played, he would be, but yeah, no, he's good. But yeah, he's definitely overrated because again, he doesn't play, and he's not a great shooter. But he's still good.
Oh yeah,
but
oh yeah.
I just think
he's very good.
It's a bad. You know what? I'll tell you this though. I'm glad because I hate the Lakers. It's the one thing that I have in common with Celtics fans is just my hatred for the Lakers, and it's good. It's great. Although I like Ty Lue now. I think he's a good coach, and I kind of wish the Sixers had him.
Oh yeah, very good coach. So bring it up Ty Lue though. The play-in celebration from the Grizzlies the other night. Everybody has a different take on everything, so I might as well ask you, what were your thoughts on the on their exuberance?
I mean, so it like I get it, like being excited and being okay with like players just players are allowed to react however they want, but between them signing their coaches to like extensions right after the regular season, to them acting like they had just won the championship after earning the right to be the 7 seed the playoffs because they weren't good enough to get the 7th seed or they weren't good enough to make the regular playoffs, I should say. To me is like, it's just like, you're going to lose in the first round. You won't, I don't think they'll get swept, but they might. Like, it just shows me you're not serious. You're not a serious franchise, but good for them. But at some
they got up on the table. They were getting up on the tables. They were throwing jerseys out, and the most ridiculous thing I've ever. I saw JJ Redick. So much love to JJ Redick. But JJ Redick put out on social media. He said, guys get all excited. We celebrate this about NCAA on one and dones, but one, this isn't a one and done. And two, you're a professional. Like, this isn't your one big game. I could see, like, we would have never accepted this on somebody like winning even like a first round series. I mean, I get that everybody has a different take on stuff, but it just looked ridiculous.
It was like magic. His like the first game of his career, I think it was, where Kareem just like hits a game winner and he goes over and is like weeping in his arms, so happy. And Kareem's looking at him like, "What is wrong with you? Like, we just won a regular season game, like in November. Relax. There's mustn't be afraid to dream a bit bigger, right? Come on."
So you said that the Timberwolves they will have to play the Grizzlies. How far do you think the Grizzlies? I think we both think that the Grizzlies are going to, there won't be any table standing or for the Timberwolves, unless they get one game and then and then they might. But how far do you think the Grizzlies are going to go?
It depends how Steph looks with the Warriors because I think they'll definitely beat the Timberwolves. If Steph is at full strength, then I think they'll probably lose to the Warriors, but maybe not. I mean, look, they could surprise us, but I just think the Suns are the team to beat in the whole league. Um, so I would say their ceiling is the conference finals, but it really, it could end in round two, and that's fine. But look, they've got a lot of swagger. They talk a lot of trash, and I love it. It's a fun team. Uh, I like them all. I want them to do well, but I think this is the Suns' year, and I think they could get to the conference finals, but that's it.
Okay. So if you did have I don't believe you are an MVP voter, so an official MVP voter.
No way.
So, but if you were, what would be who would be your top three?
Embiid, then Giannis, then Jokic, because I'm sure that'll be like the reverse of what it actually ends up being. But I love how they just changed the rules this year to like, oh, winning's not important, or hosting a first round series doesn't matter anymore. But like, you go back to like 2000, it's like they're all one seeds. The MVP winner is like either a one seed. There's a couple two seeds, two, three seeds, and then Russell Westbrook was a six seed in 17, which we all agreed was a mistake. But here we are, making the same mistake. And Jokic, much better player than Westbrook was then. His numbers are incredible. It's a historical season. But again, like, I don't care that he lifted a bad team to less than bad,
Right.
or I mean, less than good still. Like, it's never mattered before. Well, look at his teammates. That's never mattered before, except the Westbrook year when he averaged a triple double, and there was narrative around that because Durant left. So
Yep.
it would normally be Embiid in a normal year. He had the narrative. He had the team that was better, or at least finished higher in the standings. It was his time. He had a star just on his other star just decide that he didn't want to play basketball anymore and had to go half the season there. And then he gets James Harden. Things are looking great for a few games. And then things not so much. But he all season, JoJo just putting up numbers. Winning the scoring title as a center. First one since Shaq when he won MVP. But they changed the rules this year, and it's upsetting.
Yeah, I think that Giannis is the best player in basketball. If I had to take one player lottery, I would take Giannis first, no matter what. But I think the MVP, I agree, this year he had a great season, but then you couple that with you can't take the two parts away that he had to deal with all of this Ben Simmons stuff, and that's a lot not only. It's not as if Ben Simmons had a real injury where he had a torn meniscus or plantar or something like that, torn rotator cuff, and you could kind of plan out, oh yeah, well I'll make it work until they get back and hope I don't get also injured and put us in contention. But it's a lingering kind of
And
nothing really.
too.
Yes, it's a lot. So I absolutely, yeah. I think Embiid should win it, but I don't think anybody actually thinks he will. It's unfortunate.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. So do you think that Harden takes an insurmountable hit to his legacy if the Sixers don't win, or is the cake baked on what people think about Harden anyways?
Yeah, I think he can only probably help his legacy at this point because I don't think there's many like Harden's a winning player guys out there. He's fantastic. 2 or 3 years ago was like the best scoring guard since Jordan. Like just so unstoppable. Like that step back when it's hitting is just there's no defense for it. And the way that the game was called, then he was just getting to the line all the time, and it feels like coaches and media people complaining about Embiid and Harden getting all these calls has kind of like affected the way that he gets whistled. But the playoffs are always different anyway, so that's kind of always been I felt like his issue was the playoffs. You're not going to get those calls, but I think if he just goes to the basket and tries to score instead of trying to get fouled, he'll be surprised at the results. But I think he can definitely help it by just playing well. I would still pick the Sixers to beat Toronto, but And then, I mean, Miami, I think they could beat. The only thing that could really be a problem is that nightlife in Miami. So they always say the nightlife in Miami is undefeated. So that
And
could be a real concern.
and Harden will find the nightlife in South Dakota. So that's the problem.
Just give it a couple months break here, buddy.
Please, just 60 days. We need 60 days of greatness. Well, Max, thank you so much for coming on, man. Tell the people where we can follow along and what to watch from you and all that.
You can find me on Twitter. It's where I'm at most of the time, at Max_Lederman, Lederman. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're into the Celtics and you want to follow along, sure. I'll tweet some Sixers stuff sometimes, but it usually gets pretty hostile in my mentions when I do that because Sixers fans and Celtics fans don't really get along on the internet. But that's okay. It's all in good taste usually.
It's a long. I feel like it's like the Sixers' only real rivalry at this point. The Nets is kind of.
That could be a good one moving forward, but yeah, and Toronto, honestly, jeez, so sick of those guys. That shot by Kawhi, Jesus, still.
I can't let you go. What's your take? How many games does the Sixers series go?
I think it's 7, and it's all Matisse's fault. I think home court is going to be clutch because Matisse not being able to play in Toronto, it's just like, not that he's like this huge difference maker, but the margins are going to matter in this series, and he's a great defender. So I think it'll be a lot harder to win a short series, when you don't have your full roster up in Toronto. So I would say Sixers and 7, but I'm also a homer, so who knows?
Sixers and 7. And like you said, it's all Matisse's fault. But in Game 7, we blow them out back in Philly, and we get. Maybe Harden gets up on the table. Maybe now the ground's laid, you just.
I love it. I want it.
All right, Max. Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
See ya.